Hi everyone, my name is Paweł. I'm a senior software developer here at Miquido, and I'm coding with a Flutter since 2019. I love my work, I love what I do daily, and I love projects that we are actually working on in our company. And today I came to you with a talk that will cover theming and material design free for Flutter, right? And this talk is called brief because I have like 15 or 20 minutes and I will try to cover as much as possible to you. So our agenda for today regarding my presentation and my talk is we'll start with theming, how to work with this, what is actually the theming. Then we will move to material design free, what is new in this design guidelines. And then we'll move and finish with good practices that I learned and mistakes that we did while we try to implement theming in our commercial apps. And we'll start with a first question. What is theming? Do you guys have any idea? Okay. Huh? Yes, exactly. Theming is a process, right? And it's a process of applying and defining visual styles in your app to make your app look cohesive, to give user how to say it, interaction that make your app nice to use, right? And how we actually define a theming is by applying colors, right? Fonts, typography, paddings, icon, layout, all stuff that you as a front-end developers, mobile developers work daily with, right? And another thing that is great for theming is actually that it allows you as a developers apply global changes in your app, right? The UI changes. For example, let's say that your client changed branding colors, right? So from one kind of red to another kind of red. Christmas are around the corner, right? You want to have some snowy vibe in your app. Or, for example, you want to introduce something new, right? And it's a great tool if you actually have large app, a lot of screens, a lot of stuff to cover. So that is a theming itself, right? And for how do we actually implement theming? So in this case, we actually can see that we apply a theme widget, right, with a theme data object. And in that case, we are applying only a light mode, right? Dark mode I will try to cover later on. And in that case, we are applying light material theming, and we change some colors that are matching our event branding, right? So after introducing our changes right here, as you can see, our app should look pretty much like this, right? You have some blue and red color, right? So it's pretty basic stuff for you probably as you work with a Flutter. So for example, let's do something else. We apply by using text theme data. We are applying some new text styles to your app, and it's actually provides us text theme provides us with different parameters. And for example, you have you can apply in your app different kinds of text styles. And in this case, we are actually using headline 4. We want to do something with it, apply font size, color, etc. Right? And how we can use it in our app, right? By calling theme of context text theme headline 4, right? And if you ask, wondering what is actually context, I'm sure that Daria will cover that later on during her talk. So anyway, that's all you need to know for this to achieve something like this, right? Pretty simple. You have text theme in your text field in your app with something like this, right? So let's move on, right? Let's do something more complicated. Each app, all of the app has something that is buttons, right? So user clicks something, right? So how can we work with it? It's also pretty simple. We have elevated button, right, on the bottom, and we are applying elevated button theme data, and using something that is button style, right? And button styles require from us as developers to use something called material state property, right? And what is actually material state property? It's a new API, let's say new, that cover all the stuff that is used in material design itself. And actually, it provides us with the API that allows us handling situation that is not actually available on the mobile, because, for example, you have app and you want to handle hover or a selected state, right? So you can apply just some presentation logic there, and you are all good to go with using material state and material state property. But what if you do not care about the other platforms like desktop or web? You simply go with your button, right? And style from constructors that allows you to actually use old plain variables like 8 for elevation or color for colors, right? And then in your widget tree, you can actually have something like elevated button, and it will look for the nearest theming in the widget tree and apply the style for your button. Right, so raise the bar a little bit for next stuff. Let's say that you have custom widget that you implemented and you want to style it all around the app, right? You use it across all the screens. And you want to apply some nice theming for that. How do you usually do it? And theming provides you some tooling for that, obviously. Let's say that you create a class called my styling properties or something like that holds properties for your custom widget, right? And then you extend it with a theme extension, okay? And after that, theme extensions require from you to override 2 methods. First one, copy with, right? Pretty simple stuff. It allows you to change your properties later on, right? The second method that you need to override and implement is lerp. And what is actually lerp? And why it is needed? Because each theme property needs to know how to linearly interpolate itself, right? So kind of scary, but implementation looks pretty much like this. And what we do next? Obviously, implemented it, right? So for our theming that we use in Material app, we go to property called extensions. We implement the set of this data there, right? We define our styling properties, right? Okay. And then in your tree, you actually get to that extension by using theme of context.extension. And then you have access to all your given properties in theme, right? So our app look like this, pretty boring, right? But anyway, it works like this. You can apply it to more complex scenarios as well. Okay, so how we implement actually material free for that, right? By using a property in theming that was introduced called use material free to true. Currently, using material design free is on opt-in, right? So you actually need to explicitly say that, hey, I want to use material free. And your app after that will change like on the given video. And what we should do next as well, if you use that, please remember that is on the current state, so it might change in the future releases of Flutter, and then you will be forced to use material design free. And what we do next, as a next step of migration to material free, you should actually migrate to the latest version of Flutter, as it provides the more extensive widgets, the changes applied for material design free. And as you migrate, you actually will see that there will be a lot of stuff deprecated, right? So it's horrible to do it manually. You would just in your terminal run command dart fix apply, and it will do the worst job for you. So that is pretty neat. And your div after that should look pretty much like this, right? So we have material that introduce headlines, subtitles, body text. It's not easy to use by developers. It's kind of horrible probably for them, and it's not easy to understand maybe. So material free introduce you 5 groups of text styles, and they are grouped in 3 pieces like large, medium, and small. And actually material free provide for you 2 additional text styles to use, and it is title large and label small, right? So you have 2 more possibility to add your text styles to your app. Okay, so what you might ask question, what else changed in Material Design 3? So obviously we have new widgets. Yeah, we have a field button with a constructor called tonal, right? And a bunch of stuff was actually affected. So for example, app bar is now a little bit less, has a little bit less aggressive color. Floating action button got squared up. The switch look completely different. It's probably look better right now, and all of that stuff. And if you are talking about size shapes, right? All our stuff can be changed to match the Material free design guidelines. Next, obviously, as I mentioned before, a new simplified typography with a new type scales, 5 types for that. And I think one of the biggest updates is a dynamic color. And if you wonder what is dynamic color, so for example, in your app, you set some primary color in your preferences for your whole operating system, for example, for Windows, Mac OS, or Android, right? And you set some wallpaper, and somehow algorithmically, Material Designs choose for you your primary color and color that matches your branding. And elevation got somehow connected with a surface tint color. So for example, in Material 2, when something was elevated higher, right, to provide information for user that, hey, this is maybe important, the surface of given widget is now a little bit darker, right? So it's closer to user, pointing out that, hey, this is maybe important for you. And if you want to know what actually else changed, I highly invite you to look at the umbrella ticket for migration to Material free, right? It's pointing out that almost 80% of work is already done for Flutter, so most of the stuff is actually for you to use. And Flutter documentation for property use Material Design 3, right? There's a bunch of widgets affected. And moving on to the part that probably maybe you are the most excited for, so what we learned during implementation of Flutter and what kind of advice can I have for you. If you're starting a new app, start with theming as soon as possible, right? And use this way of implementation, so theme data light copy with, because you will have already field properties that match Material Design guidelines, right? And if you implement it is like on the screen below, you actually have possibility to still use hot reload, because for some reason, if you apply changes, if you directly import your theme object that is extracted, hot reload doesn't work when you provide some changes in your theming. So this is weird, but anyway, this works pretty good, and you can play around in your app and you applying changes to a whole bunch of screens. And the second reason for extracting the theme data to separate file is actually this stuff gets pretty big, right? This is a screenshot from our production app, and as you can see, light theming took almost over 300 lines to implement and style whole app. And if you add dark mode, right, it make it double for you. So right, and also as you can see, lots of this theme data have const constructors. So use them, as it will probably a little bit boost the performance of your app. And next, do not implement your styling like this. Probably because, if you can see, there is a few bugs there, because the developers tend to change properties but do not update the name of the variable, right? And also, horrible way to implement it is like text size 20, and you put 20 and you update the variable is 21, but text size is still 20, right? And it might be confusing, and this is generally wrong practice. Please don't do that. Use text theme properties for styling your app, and also use generic and abstract naming conventions. What we found out during our work with a theming, that this diamonds class with a clothing size like XL, LM, it's worked pretty well for us, and it's pretty abstract. And for the colors, we actually have like little fun practice that we use green color, right? Hex value, because it's easier to find in Figma or in your code, and then RGBO constructor that provides you meaningful information for you as well. Next, prepare for various bugs. As I mentioned, theming is a process, right? So for our app, we used Cupertino confirmation dialog, right? And as you can see, the buttons are not quite looking as expected. What is going on, right? Turned it out that we forgot to override Cupertino theme data, and it took some primary color that we have for our app, and later on we do not have access to Cupertino colors, right? So we choose, when we applied and override it with a blue color, right? It worked perfectly. So again, prepares for different stuff that you maybe are not prepared for, but theming is a process, adventure, right? Implement dark mode last, as actually it will save your time for testing, right? If you implement it in parallel, you will probably forgot to update some property in the dark mode or in the light mode, right? And if you approach in the way that you implement the dark mode as a last, then you will save time on the implementation. You will know which properties should be changed, and you will have time only for the testing just before the release. So this is my tip for you. And last tip, I think the most important, talk to the designer people. Like they know their stuff. I hope they know what they are doing, and probably they will have some good tips for you, right? And if you work in agile teams that move fast, right, communication is a crucial part of a development. Next, practice, good practice I have for designers. Do I have any designers right here? UX, UI people? Okay, only once, so I'll be talking to you. No, joking. I have four tips for designers people. If you can, please do some, I don't know, pictures after the slide and show them. Prepare for developers some basic stuff before starting development, right? So we need to have some text styles, some colors, and rest can be prepared on the go. So, but we need to have something to work with. Second, I think this is the most important one. Mobile app is a, let's say, living organism, right? So it have different kind of app life cycles, different states, like empty. There is no data. What? How apps should look like there? We are waiting for data from the backend, right? We should have some loaders. Something went wrong, and how we handle that? How the error experience should be for the users, and the most important enemy of any designer, on-screen keyboard. This stuff will cover almost half all of your designs, right? Know how to handle that scenario. Use and test solution actually you design. Please be, because sometimes you design something that looks great, but is completely unusable in real life by real users. Be involved in that process. Test your stuff that you want other people to use. And be curious, be patient, and talk to us as developers, right? We are in this together. We have common goal. We share the same vision. We want to provide the best experience for our users in our apps, right? So this is like super important if you have any design people in your team. And to summarize, right? Start using theming if you can. If you're not starting use theming, try to do it. Iterate. Improve one thing after another. It will benefit you in the long time, in the long run. Use theming as early possible. Use theme extensions. This stuff is amazing. It make your code cleaner. It's neat. It's nice. Just use it, right? Try material-free Flutter app showcase. It's available on the material design site. Like free. I think that more than half of this presentation is based on that app and how it looks like. Great stuff. I highly recommend it to look at it. Be prepared for UI bugs, as theming is a process, right? As for example with this Cupertino design. Discuss material design free with your design people, right? This stuff is going to stay with us for the next decade. It's going to deprecate material too, and you want to be ahead of your competitors and implement it as soon as possible. And at last, have fun. We are all here for Flutter. We love Flutter. It's a great tool for creating the mobile apps, and yeah. And surprise section, huh? You think I finished? No. I wanted to brag a little bit more. What we are actually doing here in Miquido, lately we started like doing some packages. The first one I'm really proud of is a lint Quido, is a bunch of set rules, linters for your apps. It's pretty robust. It have, I think, over 200 rules for your code. You can check it for yourself. We are implementing in our commercial app just for the developers to be easy to migrate between the projects, right? So your code is cohesive. And another one is Quido, hence the pirating theming in the README, and is actually a tool that we developed lately for augmented reality, right? And based on that package, we actually create an internal app called Mural Scanner, right? And this is our internal app that helps new people that are employers in our company to know actually the history of our company, and you can actually use it for yourself. It supports 3 languages, Ukrainian, Polish, and English. So you can scan the pictograms on the wall behind you. And if you download this app, it's only available for Android. As probably you all know, we had maybe some Apple distribution problems, because everyone knows that going through Apple review is a nightmare and probably 9th circle of the hell. So yeah, you can give it a try during the networking part. And yeah, right now I'm finished. Thank you very much for listening to my talk.